Bankrupt U.S. government issues fake bonds in doomed attempt to keep afloat. The bankrupt U.S. government in Washington, D.C. was able to pretend it did not go bankrupt last week by issuing fake bonds, but this will be blocked, according to Pentagon, Asian Secret Society, and European royal sources. In 2008, the Khazarian mafia puppet government in Washington, D.C. was able to avoid bankruptcy by using 700 tons of gold to forge 750,000 tons worth of gold-backed bonds and create $23 trillion out of thin air, confirmed by CIA, Pentagon, MI6, and other sources. That money has now run out. Now, they are forging the identity of a murdered man, Dr. Svonko Burdick Albert. It is actually Count Albert, to try to do the same thing, this time using Chinese currency. The Khazarian mob also murdered former top European CIA man Neil Keenan and tried to forge his identity in a failed attempt to get their hands on Indonesian gold, according to CIA sources in Indonesia. At the same time, the Khazarian mafia sent their fake Saudi crown prince to Pakistan last week with $20 billion in bribes in an attempt to buy security for their collapsing control of oil in the Middle East. Pentagon sources say. However, the Pakistanis were not fooled by the Satan-worshipping Khazarian puppet pretending to be a Muslim. According to Ismaili historical Hashashin or assassins sources, the reason the Cloud Prince went to Pakistan to seek protection was because the U.S. military is planning to withdraw from Saudi Arabia and led the Arabians once again to choose a genuine Muslim as their leader, thus dooming many of the so-called Saudi royals, Pentagon sources say. Meanwhile, multiple sources in the US and Canada say special forces have been called into action in North America following the declaration of a national emergency last week by US President Donald Trump. Pentagon sources say that with emergency powers, Trump can now direct military operations in cities to remove false flag threats, arrest cabal and foreign agents, close overseas bases, get the Army Corps of Engineers to build a wall, order troops home, and bring military tribunals into the national conversation. Federal Emergency Management Agency Administrator Brock Long was fired and Attorney General William Barr was sworn in before Trump declared the national emergency in order to make mass arrests. Possible and to prepare for visa declassification and intel dumps, the Pentagon sources say. Brock Long was behind the fake hurricane crisis that was used to cover up the bankruptcy of the Puerto Rico operations of the Washington, D.C. Corporation. Many of the intel dumps will be about the politicians and power brokers who are receiving huge bribes from the illegal drug industry, CIA sources say. Already, the drug lord El Chapo testified at his sentencing hearing that Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, and others received drug money from him. Similarly, Pope Francis was forced to make a historic move in defrocking sex predator ex-Cardinal of DC, Ted McCarrick, paving the way for more cardinals and bishops to face the same punishment. The sources say, this was apparently the first time in the entire 2,000-year history of the Church that a cardinal has been defrocked, or laicized. McCarrick was a top power broker in Washington, D.C., who protected many high-level political criminals, the sources say. Remember George Bush Jr. and Tony Blair going to see Pope Benedict to ask for protection after leaving power? The defrocking of McCarrick was related to the removal of top Vatican financier Cardinal Pell after he was found guilty last December of sexually abusing children, according to P2 Freemason sources. Pell has been blocking the start of the new financial system, they say. This is also connected to the formal request by the British government sent to the Vatican via diplomatic channels to investigate the Vatican's role in the March 11, 2011 Fukushima mass murder. British MI6 sources say, the Fukushima criminal proceedings will start with charges being laid against Israeli security company Magna BSP and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the sources say. However, the fascist and sham warfare promoting Prime Minister Shinzo Abe of Japan and his Iwasaki clan backers, Mitsubishi Group, will also face trial later in the proceedings, the sources say. As a reminder, Abe's government was installed through election fraud after the Fukushima disaster. His government has been embezzling large sums of money that officially are being used for cleaning up Fukushima, according to Japanese right-wing sources. In addition, Abe's mother is acting as a liaison with Japanese gangsters for handing out Tokyo Olympic-related slush funds, according to a Yamaguchi Gumi syndicate insider. The fact that the Russian government does not want to make a peace deal with Abe's regime is a clear sign that they understand it is an illegitimate criminal government, say Russian FSB sources. The firing of Michael Greenberg, a top Vatican Mossad agent in Japan, and the imminent arrest of murderer, drug dealer, and Barbara Bush's cousin Richard Armitage will pave the way for the cleanup in Japan, say White Dragon Society sources in Japan. That's why there is a huge fight going on behind the scenes as Japan prepares to install Crown Prince Naruhito as a new emperor on May 1st. One group is pushing to have North Korea's Kim Jong-un installed as emperor, since he represents a part of the royal bloodline that never surrendered to foreign control. Japanese imperial family sources say. Another group claims that Naoshi Onodera of the Southern Imperial bloodline should be emperor, because Naruhito is not of imperial blood. The imperial succession is sure to be a topic of intense discussion when Kim Jong-un and Trump meet in Vietnam on February 27th and 28th. Pentagon sources say a public tribunal may be held to determine who the legitimate emperor should be. There is also an upcoming case that the International Court of Justice in The Hague that could upset the political foundations of the European Union, according to officials of France's National Transition Council. On February 19th, the Council will submit a case to the ICJ claiming that France has had no constitution since December 3, 2007. According to Council spokesperson Fabrice Dubois, in addition, the Council will show that three departments, administrative regions of France, have been run without legal right or title since 1948, he says. This legal mess could trigger not only the regime change in France, but also the collapse of the EU as we know it, for all sorts of legal reasons which I can develop if you like. Dubois claims, he adds that we are naive. We know we are under full-time surveillance. The fact we are not prevented from acting means that higher people decided it was the right time to touch the EU Fourth Reich legally. Meanwhile, the Khazarian Mafia government of Israel, seeing that its Fourth Reich Nazi backers are also losing power, tried holding an emergency conference in Poland last week to drum up support for a war on Iran. They were also there to try to extort money from Poland, Polish intelligence agency sources say. The Polish government refused to hand over a penny and instead asked for the prosecution of European Council President Donald Tusk, the sources say. Tusk is a German agent who only pretended to be Polish and was involved in the murder of top Polish government officials, including its president. In 2010, they add. Another sign the Khazarians are losing control came as Israeli dual citizen Rupert Murdoch surrogate former Fox News anchor Heather Nauert withdraw her name for consideration as UN ambassador. Pentagon sources say. The US will soon have an UN ambassador who actually represents the US and not Israel, Jewish CIA sources say. There is a lot more going on that we cannot write about yet, because it could jeopardize ongoing operations. However, readers can rest assured that it involves really nice things for the people and living organisms of this planet. The meek are finally going to get their inheritance.